Okay, I think we've got enough people here to start, and I don't want to let the day slip too much. So welcome back for the third session of the conference today. And just a reminder, could people switch their phones off because they may interfere with the communication system. Everyone in this room is probably fairly well aware of the issues to do with sustainable energy and climate change, and we sometimes forget that many other people simply are not. There are people who don't know of the benefits that sustainable energy technology could bring them. There are people that see climate change as something that's frightening, something that they feel powerless to do anything about. And so in the work of the next three finalists, what we wanted to highlight was the way they're all, in different ways, working with communities, trying to help them and encourage them to find specific solutions that are relevant for where they are, bringing people benefits and making them part of the solution rather than part of the problem. And I'd like to start with looking at the film of the work of the Solar Energy Foundation on solar lighting in Ethiopia.
For the people of the remote highlands of Ethiopia, grid electricity is a distant dream. When the sun goes down here, the only light is from wood fires or kerosene lamps. They're dark, hot, smoky and dangerous. But one village, Rama, has a very modern answer to this ancient problem: solar electricity.
The solar light is like gold. Before, using firewood and kerosene, I'd have to blow my nose all the time because the gas was suffocating me. But now I live in peace and I'm happy.
The kerosene was no good. It was smoky and went out very easily, but the new light is wonderful.
These solar panels mean that now, at the flick of a switch, the villagers have clean, reliable light. They're the work of Stiftung Solar Energy, the Solar Energy Foundation. 4 years ago, the people of Rama heard about the foundation's work and asked them to come. Over 1,000 villagers turned out to meet manager Samson Sagaye and his team.
They are really surprised how it works. Sometimes they didn't believe us, and as we said, we get the power from sun. They worrying a little bit about winter, rainy season, and it would not work like this. If rain comes or not in Ethiopia, we are rich of sun.
Almost all of the villagers signed up for the solar systems. So to meet the demand, the foundation set up a solar energy school in Rama to train technicians to install and maintain the systems.
We train them as a solar energy manager. They can manage everything. Also, we train them as an accountant because we want them to have their own business in the future.
Meina Himashil was one of the first to graduate. Today she's meeting Habib Tisema, yet another new customer. Meina knows only too well what a difference solar-powered light can make.
After we started working here, we saw something terrible. A boy was using kerosene light and the fuel poured all over him and he was burnt. If solar panels had reached here 1 or 2 years ago, this boy probably wouldn't have been harmed.
While the solar technicians take care of day-to-day maintenance, other villagers like Tiruwok Tasu collect a small monthly fee from each family. This ensures the systems are kept working well into the future.
On the 19th day of the month, people come here and they queue up to pay. And if there's any problem with their system, they tell us and it will be fixed by a technician.
It's not just light that's brightening up the villagers' lives. The foundation has also used solar power to pump water into the heart of the village.
The advantage is we get water right at our doors. Old ladies, pregnant women and women with new babies can all get water on their doorsteps. Previously, we had to fetch water from far away at the river and wait in line there. But now that we get water right here, it's a huge benefit.
Less time spent fetching water and longer days under electric lights means businesses are booming.
Instead of working the whole day, if you work in the evening when it's cool, your mind is free. So you can't compare working in the daytime with working in the evening. Evening work is more productive because it's cool. You don't feel the heat from the lights, and because there's no heat, it's comfortable to work, and it encourages you to work.
Most impressive of all is the effect solar power is having on education.
They get everything they need through solar energy. They do their homework, they can meet up with their families in the evening, and they have free time to play and relax. Because of solar energy, the number of educated people here is increasing.
The foundation is continuing to expand, and now they have 4 more solar centres in other parts of rural Ethiopia. They hope the growing popularity of solar energy will reduce the pressure on rural people to migrate to the cities. Today, it's Habib's turn to have his system installed.
It makes me deeply happy to have reached my age and to get such a light. Today the sun has risen for us, and our children are rejoicing too.
I'm very happy to have joined the organization. When you see the group's activities, it gives you great pleasure to see their problems solved. To see the people of our country taking advantage of this, to see their homes flourishing, it gives me great pleasure.
I'll hand you over to Samson Sagai, the manager of Stifton Solar Energy, the Solar Energy Foundation in Ethiopia, to tell you about their work.
Thank you. It's really painful for me to see such situation in my country. We are rich of 13 months of sunshine, we say it always, but we never use it. Always sun goes down at 6. People have to go to bed immediately. It's not easy to reach or to buy a kerosene lamp or candles or match in the shops just nearby them. It's not easy. Our foundation established in Germany 2004 and in 2007 in Ethiopia and 2008 in Switzerland. We mostly concentrate, the project concentrates only in Ethiopia at the moment. The director of the foundation, Dr. Harald Schuseikel, found it and to work only for a short time. But when he was there, I think it was touchful for him and he can't stop it. And now we're growing there. Since 2005, we installed, the first project was Gedjamober. We installed 30 solar home systems only. And the next village, Rema, they saw the solar system they are using in Gedjamober, the 30 households, and an NGO planned to give them a generator for solar, for lighting purpose, but they refused because it's managed by the operator only for 3 hours a day, and they pay a lot of money per lamp, and they can't get light every hour. Just solar, they can on any time, midnight, morning, or something, and they decide to use solar system. For them, we install the first 1,100 solar home systems. They get it for free, but for the sustainability of the system, we charge them a small amount of money to replace the battery in 2-3 years. Then we continue with this to a neighboring village, and we install 1,000 more systems. The main problem in the country is to find a solar technician or who knows about solar technology. It was really nothing. There was nothing about the technology in the country, I can say. So for this, it's important to have a solar technician everywhere. We install a school in Rema, in the project area, because they can learn they can see the practical, the actual way of using solar technology in the village. Till today, we train about 39 students with a 6-month course, and we train the university lecturers as a trainer, and we prepare a handbook for students who they can use it or they can read. The first, as I said, the first one we just give them for free. With this way, we can't go forward because the money is always there. So we changed our strategy to finance by ourselves and to give them a loan, and they pay back in 3 years. For this, we plan to install 50 solar centers in different regions of the country. At the moment, we already installed 4 solar centers, and we installed 900 systems since 2008. And our plan in 2009 to reach 10 solar centers. This working as a revolving fund, the money we use it for other, when they pay, we use it for other villages. They have to pay in advance. The loan is up to 3 years. Maintenance is for free. And sales and service maintenance, this is very important. If they don't pay, we use a system which can stop the system. And in the map you can see our solar centers are plotted. The next step is to establish a factory, assembling factory in Ethiopia. We already start the construction now, and we will have a solar module, charge controller, and lamp assembling factory. Here, the first picture is assembling the systems, and the second one is delivering the system to the village. And the other one is installing the system in the tukels, and farmer who enjoying the light, and teaching the solar technicians, and the payment system from the rural areas. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Samson. We'll move back to the UK for the second film, showing how a county council in the UK, in Devon, in the southwest, has developed both the supply and the demand for renewable energy. So building the capacity of suppliers at the same time as generating demand in the RE4D, or Renewable Energy for Devon programme. We'll have the film now.
Brimps Farm is a 700-acre upland mixed beef farm. We also converted our old farm buildings into accommodation. We have a conference centre and now have something like 25,000 visitors a year. We do draw a lot of energy. RE4D were helping us to get the biomass boiler on the go, but also they helped us with some development days of bringing in some professional advice. They came along and helped us set up our wood fuel cooperative. I could see that there was a huge opportunity to take full advantage of securing the supply of our material we need to buy. It's just so much better.
Renewable Energy for Devon is what I would describe as one of our flagship projects. The Council has an ambition to lower the carbon footprint, to create as productive economy as possible and put into the economy better skilled work.
It's nice to think that there is a future coming, I feel.
The project is trying to help grow the capacity of the suppliers through things like support, training courses, business development grants, but also to help people on the demand side who want to install renewable energy. And a lot of that is by giving them independent advice as well as the capital grants and funding for feasibility studies.
Without our support, our financial support, and the collaborations that we've been able to bring together, individual renewable energy businesses wouldn't have been able to achieve those on their own.
We support people across the whole county, whether they're individuals, communities, businesses. We give them support from initial inquiry right through to installation. The suppliers that we support in renewable energy from Devon are mainly installer businesses. SunGift Solar have particularly benefited from the training. They've also benefited from the business development grant and the mentor support.
The expansion that's happened in the company wouldn't have been possible without RE4D at the speed that it's happened. They've provided the training courses that we've required to carry out the work that we're doing now. Working with the RE4D mentor has been really helpful, having Tom available to us not only when we have questions or requirements, but he often approaches us if there's something that's caught his eye that he believes would be useful for us as a company. He knows very in depth exactly what our business does.
The role of business mentor is to identify the needs of the business and try and provide support as and when necessary with business planning, business development, training schemes. Growth of businesses within Devon seems to say that RE4D is doing something correctly.
I believe Renewable Energy for Devon has been innovative in a number of ways, not least of which because it has brought together the supply and the demand aspects. We've invested in 13 different technology growth plans across a variety of different sectors.
We did a number of hydro projects, for example. River Dark Country Park, we were looking at the effect of an Archimedes screw turbine and how fish can safely pass through that turbine.
We would very much like to look at new and different technologies as well. The RE4D's achievements has been, it's certainly raised awareness amongst businesses and residents of Devon the power of renewable energy.
Regionally we're seeing about 37% growth in the renewable energy sector. We've also seen about 1,300 tonnes of carbon saved per year from the installations that we've been involved with. RE4D is very much a model that can be taken elsewhere. We're already working with our neighbours in Cornwall, Dorset and Wiltshire. And also French partners in Brittany to try and replicate the project.
It's a start and it can only get bigger and better.
I'll hand you over to Melanie Sealy, the Project Manager of Renewable Energy for Devon. Melanie.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to just start by talking about some background of the project. As you can see, our energy costs are very high and basically we're importing 97% of our energy. We saw there was a real opportunity to use Devon's natural resources, our sun, our wind, our water and our wood to actually generate a low carbon economy in Devon. One of the reasons for RE4D existing was it's seen that to develop the renewable energy sector there was a real need for independent information and support for people wanting to install renewables, and also that there was a funding gap compared to conventional fossil fuel systems. So Devon County Council was very interested in getting involved and funding RE4D because it fitted well with our strategic aim to make Devon England's greenest county and develop a low carbon economy as part of that. We were particularly interested in rural areas and helping rural productivity, businesses in those areas to become less reliant on expensive energy. One other thing to say is that RE4D is now in our local area agreement, which is a sure sign that there's commitment to this project into the future. So just an overview of the project. It is a multi-partner project. This slide has got a lot of logos on, and without the great teamwork of all the partners involved, I don't think we would have achieved it. It's being funded up to the end of March 2010 at the moment, so we are carrying on with it, but I'm going to talk about results that we've achieved so far. Basically, we had a holistic approach for anyone wanting to do renewable energy, from initial inquiry right through to installation, with feasibility studies and grant funding to actually help them make the decision from actually just thinking about renewables to actually installing them. Uniquely, we were doing the link from demand to supply, so that support for suppliers and the training was absolutely critical in gearing up the sector locally to actually meet that increased demand. What we didn't want to do was fund a lot of demand and then not have the suppliers to meet that, and for all that work to go outside of the county. The project was funded very much as a pilot for the South West region, and we are working with our neighbours to roll it out. So on the demand side, we supported over 400 organisations, and about 120 of those had more than 5 days support, and we achieved over 110 installations. Those are across multiple technologies, so for businesses there was a lot of biomass, a lot of solar hot water, and for example in community groups we did a lot of PV installations and on schools as well, so there was a mix of all 6 microgen technologies that we were working with. There was about a 3-in-1 leverage from our grants, so it was quite good to see our money being ramped up. And obviously the CO2 savings and the energy savings we feel are worth shouting about, but those numbers are going to go up, and at the moment we're doing a survey for our reporting this year, so those numbers will increase. On the supplier side, there's been 55 jobs created and the combined turnover has gone up 4 million. There is strong growth in the sector anyway. Regionally it's about 37% growth, but what we were seeing through RE4D was actually a more than 50% growth in benefits for the sector. The training was also very effective. It wasn't in the original business plan, but it was identified early on as a requirement, and we found extra funding to meet that. I don't really have time to talk about the technology growth plans, but there was 10 of them, and there was 4 hydro ones which had a very Devon focus. And pleased to say that the wood fuel cluster that was featured in the film has now gone live. In terms of lessons learned, we tried to do a lot in a very short time scale, and planning definitely had an impact on what we were trying to do. Capacity and skills of the sector was an issue at the beginning, but obviously the project helped address that, so that's less of an issue now. In terms of communities and the domestic, engagement is very, very important. We're looking at how we can work with those further using things like climate action groups in the future, and that's one of the things that we would hope to do with our Ashden Award money should we be successful. The linkage of supply and demand was very effective, and the capital grants were very effective in terms of actually turning ideas into action. And an independent report showed that the project was value for money compared to other similar schemes. Next steps, we've got another capital grants fund that's running at the moment, and as I said, the support's continuing to 2010. We are working with partners in our neighbouring counties in Cornwall, Dorset, Somerset, Wiltshire, to actually roll the project out, and also with partners in Brittany using EU funding. And there is obviously a long-term commitment to carry on with the project. We have a number of case studies on our website, so if you'd like to know more, please check them out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Melanie. Quite a small geographical move this time to the English Marches on the near the Welsh borders. Marches Energy Agency, MEA, works specifically with local communities to try to identify with a community the best way for that particular community to reduce their carbon emissions. We'll see their film of this work now.
The Low Carbon Communities is a response to climate change and peak oil. We seek to work with communities, principally defined geographically, and I suppose the key difference from other responses to these important issues is to seek to integrate activity in homes, in community buildings, with schools and faith groups, and also with local businesses.
1993 we started this, and here we are today as a small brewery employing 14 local people. Hops look good today, Rob? Yep. How's it looking up there? It's looking good. Oh, nice one. When we were obtaining planning consent for this building, South Shropshire District Council introduced us to the Marches Energy Agency. This was designed as the most energy efficient building for industrial purposes in South Shropshire. We always wanted to install with good insulation and different technologies, but their expertise allowed us to make it easier.
The world of finance for climate change and sustainable energy remains pretty complicated. There's lots of initiatives and different programs coming from all sorts of places, and our job is essentially to seek to make that simple for the end user.
We've made significant energy savings. Our electricity bill is probably 20% of what it would have been. Not only is the economic savings important to us, it's the ethos behind creating a beer and brewing with sustainable technologies. Part of the brewery tour now is to go and have a look at the wind turbine and just talk generally about energy saving or technologies. There's a lot of interest out there. It's a very simple turbine, as you can see. It's a twin sail, a small wind turbine that will power approximately 1/3 of our capacity. Anything that we don't use, we sell back into the grid. So we're going to have a look at the ground source heat pump, see? Brilliant. We take the cold water from down 100 metres below in the boreholes, we compress that, and we get 40-degree liquid, or we get 5-degree liquid. This is 26, 27 degrees Celsius, and this is a warm environment for restocking our beer to get it to ferment. and that is purely from what you can generate from under the ground.
Community groups are essential to success in all the projects that we do, and the reason we need those is because they have those local connections into that community.
So if you go onto our website, the MEA website...
The aim is to provide the tools and the knowledge to that community to make informed decisions as a response to climate change and to peak oil. Every community will have leaders, and I think if you can find those leaders and work with them, then actually it will be that leadership in many respects which will carry that community forward to the next stage of its development on a low-carbon journey. It's really that integration, it's that community response, which is so crucial to what we're trying to do. In the business sector, we've had quite a lot of success in Glibbery Mortimer. Probably the best examples are Hobson's Brewery and Catherine's bed and breakfast at Broome Park Farm. She has changed nearly 40 light bulbs and installed a solar hot water system. So these are direct benefits on the back of the project.
One of the best things really is the fact that we've been able to turn the boiler off for the summer months, so where we don't obviously need the heating in the summer, we also don't need the hot water system. It's generating enough hot water to support both the family bathroom and my 2 guest bathrooms.
Was there an element of grant funding in this?
The system itself was just over £3,000. We had a third of that grant funded through the Marches Energy Agency, so our cost was just over £2,000.
The aim is to raise the profile of what people can do in their daily lives and to give them the tools and the information to do that. There really is so little understanding about how to respond in any meaningful way to climate change and fossil fuel depletion. And I think that what we have in low carbon communities is part of that solution. We've now learnt about coal and oil and gas. We're getting close to the time when there's only about half the oil left.
Shropshire County Council could just give out free solar panels and put them on each house, and it just be easier.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? To say that we've been an Ashden winner, I think would add real kudos to our work. I think it would be a sort of, yeah, we're on the right tracks here. Thank you.
Richard Davis, the Chief Executive of Marches Energy Agency, will now speak.
Great, thanks Anne, and good afternoon everybody. And the real star of that is sitting on the third row here, Simon Ross, so you must check him out later on. I've called this from why should we to how can we. There's not many people asking why should we anymore, but a huge number of communities and individuals and organisations are asking how can we. There's a real delivery gap between all of the rhetoric that's coming from many places and actually what's going on the ground. In our own small way, as an organisation, we're seeking to address that delivery gap and essentially to do more stuff, because we desperately need to do more stuff. We're a 20-strong sustainable energy charity based 50 miles up the road from Archetype in Shrewsbury in the county of Shropshire. Last Monday we opened an office in Derbyshire, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And essentially we have 5 themes to our work, which each address a specific issue or challenge or opportunity in the places that we work. At the top we have a fuel poverty and an affordable warmth strand to our work, seeking to banish fuel poverty from the areas in which we work, insulating more than 6,000 properties a year just in Shropshire alone. And we then have a capital grant scheme, very similar from what you've just heard from Melanie, a £1.5 million scheme, Honest Joe, advice, feasibility studies and 50% capital grants to businesses. And we then have a man in the van, in inverted commas, again providing support to community buildings on this issue. And then we have an education, inspiration, communication part of the organisation. And many of you I know will have enjoyed the top trumps on our stall on the left-hand side. That was one of the things created by that particular team. And then all of that and lots else is enshrined within Simon's team, Low Carbon Communities, which is essentially where all the talent sits. Not only the talents that we have within MEA, but anyone else, anybody's money, any resource can come to bear on a specific geographical community. And as Simon alluded to in the film, we do that for 3 huge reasons. The first being human-induced climate change. The second, even if there's enough fossil fuel out there, many of the countries that have that aren't necessarily the most politically stable countries, and there's a real issue around the security of our future supply. And then the fact that obviously cheap and plentiful fossil fuels cannot last forever. So, we have, of the order of 100 months to get from here to a much better place, and obviously low carbon communities is one part of that. And I know a complicated slide, but essentially we're seeking to integrate activity not just in a sectoral way, so we don't just work with households or just work with businesses. We try to integrate activity across homes, across community buildings, and then across organisations, including businesses, doing a great many things. And our process isn't set in stone. It's constantly changing. We're constantly learning as we acquire new knowledge and get to understand how to deliver what we deliver more effectively in communities. A huge number of case studies, you know, at the level of operating in a very significant way in small communities. We're able to reach, you know, many homes, most businesses, every community building. And again, this is all available on our website for you, should you wish to explore further. Then in terms of what we've actually achieved, there's obviously a range of metrics in terms of the amount of CO2 we're saving in those small rural communities shown here across the three sectors. And then also in terms of the numbers of measures installed, might not seem huge, but for relatively small communities, this is very, very significant. And what we're trying to do, rather than spreading resources thinly across, you know, large areas, we're trying to concentrate resources into small places so we can really learn how to move forward with this challenge we have over this next 100 months. And we believe that, going back to the Professor's opening remarks this morning, we need 4% per year going forward. Now, we've delivered a 5% reduction over 3 years, and we believe we can increase that, and we think we can manage 5% a year in a community with a bit more resource and a bit more learning. And I talked about not being reliant on any single source of funding, and I think that's really important. We draw money from wherever we can get it to actually deliver into communities. And I mentioned Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire and our extension to the east. We last Monday signed a service level agreement with 19 local authorities in the Peak Park to roll out our work into the East Midlands. And again, Rena Jones is here, my newest employee, who's leading the team in the East Midlands, and we've pledged to spend our Ashden Award money in the East Midlands to roll out what we do. And this just identifies the geographical areas in which we're currently working. I'll finish with 3 quotes. The first from John Ruskin, who said, "What we think or what we know or what we believe is in the end of little consequence. The only consequence is what we do." And this one from Daniel Burnham, "Make no little plans, they have no magic to stir men's blood. Make big plans, aim high in hope and work." And for all of those of us working with the public sector or in the public sector, search all the parks in all your cities, you'll find no statues of committees. This is about individuals and leadership, and it's great to see so many of those people here today with the Ashden Awards support. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Richard. I'd now like to ask Richard, Melanie and Samson all to come to the table for questions. Okay, so the question for Samson is how to motivate people to pay.
Yeah, the idea is the technology is very, very new to our people in Ethiopia. So it's not easy to tell them just use 4 hours or 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, like this. So we design a special charge controller which can be managed by remote control. And because sometimes they complain the system is not working. We went there and we can see it's overused. So we can't complain to them, you are using too much. He said, no, 1 hour only or something. We don't have any proof to check it. So sometimes we can see the system, there are LED lights, indicators, and then we can see how they are using. So if they are not happy to follow our rules, we can switch off until it gets charged again, the battery. And the other system is if they don't deposit or save the money every month, because this is very important for the sustainability of the system. So they have to come and pay on the date, the fixed date. They have their own money collectors that they elected from their own community, from the users. They are sitting on the 19th day of the month. If they don't come and pay that day, the service and maintenance technicians, which are trained by us from the local people, they are going to the village and then just to switch off from outside if they are not in the home. So they have to come and deposit the money the next day. It's the way it's working. Is that the answer?
Thank you. So the question is to do with the fact it's not just in rural areas of Ethiopia, but now in Addis and other cities, there are extended power cuts. What's right across the country? Yeah. What is the potential for solar energy meeting the energy demand across the country, and what would the demand for electricity across the country, and what would it cost?
Yeah, it's a pity. Just for our government, we are working to push them to change. Only 1% of the rural areas are electrified, and the tax for solar home system, solar materials is over 50%, but generator 5%, which is crazy for me. Still, the last 5 years, I heard it. It's the paper is in the government offices to decide, but nothing happened. Just till today, we have to pay tax. Normally, we are NGO, we don't pay, but we are pushed to pay for lamps. Normally, they say it is consumable. From the total system, we pay for lamps. It's really a big market in the country, but it's not encouraged. Not yet encouraged. The government promised to electrify to reach 50% of the country with grid in 2015 Ethiopian. It's 2000. We have different calendars. Sorry. 2015 means 23, I think. 2023 to reach 50%. But today we have a power cut 4 days a week. And no work, I can say, in the offices. So I think this is time for them to think about the renewable technologies, and solar especially. We are, I said before, 13 months of sunshine. We have really enough energy there in the country. So we're working for that. We're pushing. We installed. We are the largest now in the country. We install about 3,000 solar home system, and which is very small, but it's the largest. And the government installed 350 solar home systems the last 10, 15 years. So we're working really. I am dedicated to push it and to bring this as much as possible to many people.
Thank you very much. Okay. Well. Sorry. We'll start with the first question to Richard and Melanie, which is, in this sort of time of economic downturn, what's really happening on developing the sort of new green jobs, and what's the possibility for going forward on this?
Yeah, I mean, we're not seeing any slowing up in terms of both the ambition and the resources that are coming from the sources that support us, and a bit like computer power, MEA seem to kind of double every 24 months, is how it's always been. So. And just opening a new office in Derbyshire. I mean, there's clearly an infinite amount to do. There's an awful lot of rhetoric and not nearly enough action yet. And we await to see the financial mechanisms that allow, much increased action. I mean, it's almost trivial, the sort of action that has gone on, including the sorts of things that we've been doing. The fact that we're here talking about the fabulous projects that we're doing still in 2009 seems a bit crazy when we've been talking about this for more than 10 years and haven't yet seen this breakthrough that so many people have been talking about. And I don't know whether that's going to be some kind of event out there with weather or climate, or whether there's going to be some enlightening of society suddenly to move forward. We're hopeful, and we're trying to kind of do our bit to create the political space to enable those sorts of decisions to be made.
And Melanie, would you like to comment as well?
I would comment that what we're seeing in the renewable energy sector at the moment is definitely an effect in the domestic side from the downturn. So people aren't so willing to invest in these big ticket items like solar hot water systems. But for the business's point of view, we're not seeing any let off there. So the community projects, the SME projects, the growth of this sector is still continuing. We're relying very much on European funding to try and work with partners and actually
actually get funding for the future. Obviously, there is, as Richard says, there's a lot of rhetoric about green jobs, etc., and we would like to see some sort of facts to follow the figures that came out of the budget in terms of where these millions of pounds being spent. So that's probably the only other comment I'd say.
And we'll just take now the second half of that question, which is to Samson, on how your work is contributing to the Millennium Development Goals, and how can you monitor the contribution of your work on energy and how that contributes compared to other factors that are contributing. Sorry, I didn't say that very well at all, but I hope you've got the idea.
Okay. It's as I said, 3,000 means just nothing to count it, and for me, just one village in the country we installed. To reach really, it's a Millennium Development Goal. Not only we, others should also participate in it. There are local importers, other NGOs. We are the only NGO, I can say, we're working on it now. GTZ working a little bit for health posts like this, some schools. But we are the largest, we say, 3,000 only. And it's not easy to say it now, how it affects this Millennium Development Goal. But we're pushing this. We have an agreement with the government for a 5-year project to disseminate 50,000 solar home systems in the coming 5 years. And then we can count it.
Yes. Thank you. The question is, have any projects not gone ahead because they've been frustrated by the planning system?
Sorry to laugh, but yes, they have. It has got a bit better with recent changes in planning legislation allowing permitted development on domestic, for example, but that doesn't really help our local businesses. On a scale to 1, it's very hard to say on 1 to 10, but I would say probably maybe 20% of the projects we were working on didn't get through planning, something like that.
I mean, for us, it's not an issue. We're actually technology blind as an organisation, so we actually don't really mind how CO2 emissions get reduced within communities. And given that there's an infinite amount of dull stuff to do that doesn't require planning application, if someone did have something turned down, there's plenty of other things I'm sure that particular building or organisation or business could actually do to reduce CO2 emissions. So to date, it hasn't been a problem with the work we're doing in Shropshire and further afield.
Thank you. So this is how the work of March's Energy Agency links to the Transition Town movement, which for those of you that are not from the UK is a movement sort of set up really by individual communities and towns in Britain to get together and look at how they respond to potential shortage of oil and reducing carbon emissions.
Yeah, and a fabulous initiative that the Transition Initiative is, and essentially we're working closely with a number of transition communities who seem to be almost on a daily basis popping up. I mean, we see our role not in any way competing with what those organisations are seeking or those initiatives are seeking to do within their communities, but essentially developing a range of products and services that those initiatives can almost consume. So, if they need help with funding or want to do some communication work within their communities, we've got a range of things that they can take from and providing that honest broker support to connect those groups up with those relatively complex policies and programs and initiatives that are out there in that space. So very much being that honest broker for a climate friendly community or a low carbon community or a transition community, we don't mind. We just want to work with aspirant communities who want to be in a different place.
Can we just thank all the speakers from this session today?